Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be going through all of the cards from the 25th to the 27th. That includes all the Soul Fragment cards. And the next video will go through the cards from the 28th. And there's going to be a huge dump of cards on the 29th, which is probably the day you're watching this. And we'll do a big set review after all of that. But today is just 25th, 27th, which is all the Soul Fragment cards plus a few extra. So let's jump straight into the cards. So first up, Vectus Outcry, summon 2/1/1 whelps. Each gains a death rattle from your minions that died this game. So this card is insane. If you can get any death rattles to die, this is so much value. Firstly, 5 mana 6/6, even with no death rattles, card wouldn't be played in any deck, but it wouldn't be terrible either. If you just want to look in game, if I type death rattle into my collection, there's already lots of possible combinations you can have with this card. So there's like Skyvatir Loot Hoarder. Skyvatir's already played in the Rogue deck. That's two card draw. That's really good. It can go with primes. Like you have your any prime card. You're playing that. You just shuffle more primes into your deck. That seems insane. Like it just seems bonkers with any prime card. There's the new Rogue card, which has just been announced. Infiltrator Lillian. This will be 1/1 to summon a 4/2. That sounds insane. That just seems bonkers. You can just make it so it's only like prime cards or exactly what you want. Like if you're playing maybe Serpent Egg as well, this can be really good with 1/1 Serpent Egg. Sound insane. So a deck that runs Serpent Egg can run this too. This card just seems bonkers. I mean, I'm going to be playing this card in so many decks. Next up is Raz Frost Whisper. 5 mana 3/6 Shaman Mage card. End of your turn, deal 1 damage to all enemies, improved by spell damage. So if you remember Despicable Dreadlord, this was a pretty decent card. This card's really like snowboard. If you can fight a very even board battle, where you can manage to like your opponent develops, you can trade their minions down to 1 health, and then you play this, it clears their board, and then they can't respond to it. Like it's just snowballing the entire game. There isn't much spell damage going on right now in Shaman or Mage. This would support a more spell damage archetype, which they are trying to push in both classes with other spell damage cards. But it just seems like a strong card right now. I'm not quite sure what it sees playing exactly in Shaman because of the lack of, well, I mean this softens up the board for Reno as well on Reno Mage, but in Shaman you're kind of playing a more proactive game plan with like the Mogu Flesh Shaper, the Bogspine Knuckles Evolve stuff. There's no real control Shaman right now. Maybe this card can help build the archetype. I see this team more playing Mage, maybe in Reno Mage, maybe in some other Mage decks which include spell damage. There's the new 1 mana 1/3 in Mage which has 1 spell damage. This goes great with this on turn 6. 2 damage AoE seems really strong. Just a strong card here. Next up, Groundskeeper, 4 mana 4/5 taunt, Battlecry. If you're holding a spell that costs 5 or more, restore 5 health. So 4/5 taunt for 4. That's really a decent stat line. Wouldn't see play as a standalone card, I don't think. But it's borderline. It's very close. It's very close. And then it has this additional effect. If you're holding a spell that costs 5 more, restore 5 health. So I presume it's not to your hero, it's to any minion, which is pretty powerful, healing up a minion. What does this see play in? You don't really have 5 cost plus spells you're playing in Shaman right now, unless again it's this control Shaman archetype they're pushing. There's cards like Earthquake. If I type spell into my collection, we can just quickly go over that as well. So you just type, if you type spell, then that gets only spells up. So if we go Druid, yeah, playing Glowfly Swarm maybe, but probably not with that card. These cards you're not really playing. You're only really playing Overflow, and there's a new 10 mana Druid spell you might play that's come out. Then Shaman, maybe Dragon's Pack Hacker Scheme. Maybe Earthquake. I don't really see you playing 5 plus cost spells, so that's my worry for this card being effective right now. Definitely see having potential in the future if they put any good 5 plus cost spells. The worry with Druid right now is it's really like you're playing Fungal Fortunes, you don't play minions, or you're playing this Geppetto deck where you don't really want to draw this, right? So I don't see it quite fitting in right now, but I definitely see it have some potential to be strong. Next up, Raurion? The Tenured? I probably butchered his name, sorry about that. 8 mana, 3/12. Whenever this attacks a minion, set the defender's attack and health to 3. So 3/12 that trades 4 minions if it's attacking, but then your opponent can trade back with that good value trades. This is a 3/12, it kills a minion, then it's a 3/9. Really not amazing. It's good in some grindy late game battles, but by mana 8 of a game, what's happening in this game? Like Druid's been at 10 mana for like a turn or two and is already setting up some crazy stuff with Malagos because of all the new Druid support cards that come in next expansion. Other classes like Demon Hunter, they're already out of cards as aggro, so this card's useless. Is this good value card against Galacon Priest? Really don't see this card being up too much. I mean, it always wins the duel, which is nice. 5 mana duel card. Maybe some sort of duel paladin. I doubt it though. But, I mean, this is a strong card. I just worry that 8 mana at this is a bit late in the game right now. Like against Highlander decks, their power turns are so much stronger in the late game than this. So, but a good card, nonetheless. I just don't really see it fitting in the current late game power spikes of the game. Next up, Gift of Luminance, 3 mana. Give a minion Divine Shield, then summon a 1/1 copy of it. So you're going to want to play this on a card that has an effect. It's essentially a 1/1 Divine Shield minion that gives a minion Divine Shield. So you can compare this pretty well to Arjun Protector, which is a 2/2, which is similar to a 1/1 Divine Shield that gives a minion Divine Shield, and that's for 2 mana. This costs 3 mana. So an Arjun Protector is not a good card. So this isn't a good card. Unless it's on a card with an effect. So you have to play this on effect cards. There's a new Paladin Priest Legendary that was recently released where if you play spell on the minion, then it plays a spell from your deck. This could be the spell from your deck that's played on that, maybe. But for now, unless there's some crazy synergies, I don't really see this card being great. Next up, Adorable Infestation, 1 mana. Give a minion +1/+1, summon a 1/1 cub, add a cub to your hand. Druid Hunter, very flexible spell here. So 1/1, summon a 1/1. So it's a 1/1 that gives a minion +1/+1. That's a 1 mana 2/2, kind of. But you already need a minion in play, which can be tough to do, especially as Druid. But as Hunter, that can be relatively easy to do. Add a cub to your hand, so it's mana flexible. You can fit that cub in on any turn you're floating a mana. So this card could be in like a Highlander Hunter deck where you might struggle with mana sometimes. You might want to get that extra 1 mana in. It can be a 2/2. The 2, give minion +1/+1, or it can be a 1/1, give minion +1/+1, which is nice flexibility. Having to have a minion on board is the downside of this card. Like, it's not actually. I wonder if you can play this without anything on board, just for the 1/1. I doubt it, because it says give a minion +1/+1, but maybe. It's also unplayable if your opponent only has minions. Not the greatest top deck. This card is decent. Alright card. The flavor's obviously great. Good to see some play. I don't really see it working in any Druid deck right now, though. Here it is. Lab Partner. I spoke about this one earlier. 1 mana, 1/3. Spell damage +1. This card, nice 1-drop for Mage. 1/3. Good stat line. Spell damage 1. Spell damage 1 is actually pretty decent, I think. This can go well with so many AoE spells in Mage that you like randomly pick up and sort of like Arcane Explosion deals 2 now. 2 AoE is so much better than 1. That's such a big breakpoint. Like this card would have been great against all those Demon Hunter metas we just faced. This plus Arcane Explosion, this plus Arcane Missiles, whatever's going on. I doubt you're going to play Arcane Explosion in your deck, but you can already see how good spell damage is just by thinking of the breakpoints. Like, this can work late game with Flame Strike. You're going to pick that up sometimes. This can work late game with Blizzard. This can work with Rolling Fireball, just for little breakpoints. It also works with that new Legendary that came out. It can work with burn spells to lethal your opponent. I think the card's pretty good. Obviously, there's a deck called No Minion Mage. This isn't going to go in that deck. There's a deck called Highlander Mage. But I think this could go in Highlander Mage. Like, the Highlander Mage doesn't have a 1-drop right now. And this is a good 1-drop. Let's see it ending up in that deck. Also, there could be entirely new Mage archetypes built revolving around spell damage. And this is a spell damage card, so that would go in there. Next up, Runic Carvings. 2/1. So 4 Treant they're Treant Tomes, or you can overload 2 and then give the 4 Treant Tomes rush. Force of Nature, +1 mana. Don't see this being very good in Druids. You can maybe innovate this out with the new Innovate card. Maybe better in Shaman. 4/2/2 Treant, 6 mana, 8/8, spread over 4 bodies. You want to see how Force of Nature 5 mana, 6/6, spread over 3 bodies isn't good enough. 4 mana, 8/8, slightly better than 5 mana. No, 6 mana, 8/8, slightly better than 5 mana, 6/6, I guess. That's pretty meh. But being able to give them Rush, though, to clear up your opponent's board, the flexibility of this card could make it worth it. Could see this working in Shaman, possibly. Especially considering their totems. This, like, what you can do with Shaman is play this. With the Innovate, cheat it out early, and then play Totemic Might, make them all 2/4s, via trade all of your opponent's minions, and get so far ahead on board in these aggro mirrors, you just win. You do sacrifice your entire next turn, though. I see this having more potential in Shaman than it does in Druid, because of the totem synergy, considering these are, of course, totems, so... Need to see how that deck works. Right now, there is a lot of totem synergy with the 5 mana Totem Goliath that came out, so we could see this going in a totem deck. Have to work out how that all works, though. Need to do some theory crafting on that, but it looks like it has some potential in the totem deck. Next up, Gandis Barov. 5 mana 2/1. Summon 2 5-cost minions. Equally pick one that dies when it takes damage. So this card... Oof, the disparity in 5-cost minions, guys, is pretty nuts. We just search for type minion. And we look at 5 mana. You can summon an Earth Elemental, you can summon Jandis itself as a 2/1, right? There's a huge disparity in quality. Starving Buzzard. Like, if you summon a Taunt, you can just give the other minion the effect it dies after 1 damage, and then, like, it won't take 1 damage because there's a Taunt in the way, maybe, but it's like Chromatic Egg, Desert Obelisk. Oh, this card is, of course, dual class, Mage and Rogue. Can work really well with the card Khadgar in the game right now. Summons additional copies of minions when they spawn. This plus Khadgar is like a great combo. I don't like this card because the 5-drops are so random and different. Oh, and then which one do you put it on? Do you put it on the bigger one or the smaller one? Mind Games is kind of basically just random anyway. Like, there's not much skill involved in the Mind Games. This card has a lot of random involved, and I don't think it's going to be particularly enjoyable, the amount of randomness on it. Like, most of the time, if you just hit a good minion and a bad minion, you just keep the good minion around. This is the 5 mana 2/1 that summons a good 5-drop, plus another 5-drop with 1 health. That's a lot of stats. Yuck. Blech. You can also, like, because it's a rogue card, you have Evolve Lackey a lot of the time just hanging around to just evolve this on turn 6. Blech. Next up, wow, it's almost like Double Gangster Evolve with Evolve Lackey. Oh, you can even evolve the minion. Oh my god, you can Evolve Lackey the minion that you secretly pick as well. Next up, Master Alabaster. 7 mana 6/8. Whenever your opponent draws a card, add a copy to your hand that costs 1. This is a neutral legendary. It's unplayable, but it's cool. If your opponent's drawing lots of cards and can't kill this, well, that really is, like, maybe you play this against the Druid before they want to overflow, and you're like, ha ha ha, get wrecked, Druid. Because Druid can't kill it, right? Because it's a 6/8. But Druid's already overflowed on turn 5, so unlucky. Ha 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 ha. But, yeah, not really seeing much application of this card. It is pretty cool, all these keys. Looks like the king of the arena. But, might be an arena card itself. Yeah. Don't see much application constructed right now. People are saying this coin glide, reduce the cost of glide with this. That's the only application I would see, but that's not going to happen. So it's a fun card, but not going to happen. Next up, we have the Soul Fragment cards, and you might be thinking to yourself, "Boar, what is a Soul Fragment?" Well, I have that covered. Here it is, the Soul Fragment. Cast when drawn. Restore 2 health to your hero. So yeah, so you won't have to spend any mana on this. Just the moment you draw it, you heal for 2. It's in Warlock and Demon Hunter. Here it is. The first card with the effect 1 mana 1/3. both classes. Demon, shuffle 2 Soul Fragments into your deck. So 1 mana 1/3, good stat line for a 1-drop. Shuffle 2 Soul Fragments. This card looks pretty good, considering all of the Soul Fragment effects that are coming up next. Soul Shear, deal 3 damage to a minion. Shuffle 2 Soul Fragments. Shuffle 2 Soul Fragments into your deck. Deal 3 damage to a minion, pretty decent effect. And the Soul Fragment shuffle seems pretty good because of the upcoming. I'm just going to go through all the shuffle cards first. This is just Warlock, deal 2 damage to all minions, shuffle 2 Soul Fragments into your deck, 3 mana, deal 2. That's a pretty good AoE effect. Could definitely see this being played in certain metas in the Warlock, just as an AoE. Well, Warlock already has Dark Skies plus Moarg Rain of Fire plus Moarg and Dark Skies and Craig's Netherwing, so it doesn't really need another AoE, but this could go in as well in certain metas. Marrow Slicer, 4 mana 4/2 weapon, shuffle 2 Soul Fragments into your deck. Kind of comparable to True Silver Champion here. Pretty strong weapon. Can send a lot of face damage in an aggro deck as well. Looking pretty strong. Sets up for turn 5, Gravebound Adept as well. And for this card as well, with the payoff. This is the Soul Fragment payoff card. Destroy a Soul Fragment in your deck to give your hero +5 attack this turn. So considering you're not really even paying much to play these Soul Fragment cards, like these are still good statted minions, the payoff is huge. +5 damage on this card is nuts. Like, whoa. So much damage you're pushing. This is comparable to Gravebound Adept. I guess this might be worse than Gravebound because before you could attack and then direct the 4 damage where you wanted without taking the face damage. This leads to overkilling minions. Kind of wants to go face. It's a good effect, but not the greatest unless you're only going face, which you kind of are a lot of time with Demon Hunter, so like it's like a breaking point. If your opponent has lots of minions on board, it's not good, but if your opponent has a few minions and you can just go face or kill one big minion, that's really good then, right? Seems like a great payoff in an aggressive deck. Next up, Shardshot and Mystic, Demon Hunter, 3 mana 3/2, destroy a fragment and deal 3 damage to all of the minions. So remember Dustbreaker, 4 mana 3/3 that had this effect? It was insane. This card looks absolutely bonkers. Can you shuffle enough Soul Fragments into your deck is the question. How do you fit this package into your deck? You can shuffle 2 here, you can shuffle 2 more here. Thing is, these are reactive cards, these two, so you might not get to play them in the early game. This card's proactive, so you can play it. There's a worry that you won't be able to trigger the effect on these cards enough because you have to play all these Soul Fragment cards that you might not want to play because they're reactive and the meta is not great for them. Really depends how good the Soul Fragment shuffle cards are. If they're good and you want to play a slower Demon Hunter deck, that seems insane. Right now we have Timber Demon Hunter and there is Control Demon Hunter. It doesn't really work. It does have some support to expansion. This card could definitely help the Control Demon Hunter work a lot more. Just because it's insane. Next up, Shadowlight Scholar. 3 mana 3/4, destroy a Soul Fragment in your deck to deal 3 damage. 3 mana 3/4, not good in the stat line, but deal 3 damage makes it really good. Can also go face, that's great. Warp card with the Soul Fragments. It's going to be interesting to see how the Soul Fragment stuff works. You're going to want to play it in like Questlock maybe, but then it messes with the hero power. Also Questlock, how much space do you really have in that deck to play this whole Soul Fragment package? You need to play a lot of shufflers to activate these cards. So we'll have to see if there's enough room in the deck. But this card is pretty good. If this is active on turn 3, you play this, you remove their 2-drop. It's insane. It's like a 3 mana 3/4 rush that is immune this turn basically. It can also just go face in the late game for more damage, which is great for Questlock too. So looking pretty strong. Void Drinker, 5 mana 4/5 taunt, Battlecry, destroy a Soul Fragment in your deck to become Earth Elemental. 5 mana 4/5 taunt, obviously terrible. 5 mana 7/8 taunt, hello Earth Elemental is insane. This just ends the game on turn 5. Like, think about how good Abyssal Summoner is when it summons the 8/8 on turn 6. This is basically the 8/8 already on turn 5. You don't even need to have a large hand to do this. You just need to have Soul Fragments in your deck. So if you can get the Soul Fragment package in and shuffle enough to activate this enough, this needs to be active almost all the time for it to be good, because this card not active is terrible. But when this card is active, it's obviously insane. It's really just going to be a close one on this. if they're playable or not. Like if the Soul Fragment stuff is shuffled enough times and it's playable, then it vroom nuts. If it's not, then vroom. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. Gonna be fun to try it on day one. Next up, Sociologist. This is the huge payoff card for each Soul Fragment in your deck. Similar 3/3 with Rush. 7 mana 5/5. So let's imagine there's 2 Soul Fragments in your deck, because that's like one shuffle is 2 Soul Fragments. That's a 6/6 with Rush, plus the 5/5 for 7 mana. Seems pretty strong. One of the best cards in the game right now is a 2/4 that summons an 8/8 for 7 mana. That's pretty similar stat line to this, but that can go face, obviously. If you have more Soul Fragments in your deck, it just gets better and better and better. Like 4 Soul Fragments card is insane. The question is, how many Soul Fragments do you have? Because if you're playing the payoff cards, right, you're eating your Soul Fragments. You would also draw your Soul Fragments, especially if you're playing Plot Twist. But I don't think this will work in the Plot Twist deck because of the amount of times you're eating your Soul Fragments and you're shuffling your deck. Could be wrong about that, though. Also, in the Aggro Demon Hunter, this card costs 7, which messes with all your Outcast stuff, so I don't see it working in that. The Control Demon Hunter and Warlock that isn't Quest. These could be decks. I have to see how it works, but this card can be insane, so I wouldn't be surprised to see this working somehow. It's going to be a lot of theory crafting going on with these decks. Going to have to wait till all the cards come out, which is why I'm not so certain on these cards. Like, we need to see how the whole decks are going to work together, and we're still missing a lot of cards in this expansion. Next up, Devout Pupil. Sunwalker that costs 1 less for each spell you've cast on a friendly card of this game. It's Paladin Priest. So, worst case scenario, you're playing this for 6 mana, which is almost never going to happen because you're going to build your deck to put buff cards in. We already look at the spells you can play. We'll start off with Paladin. None of these cards. None of these. You're going to be playing Living of Wisdom, Hand of Adal. Already 4 spells you can put on minions. Maybe Kings. Maybe Pharaoh's Blessing. Living of Hope, possibly. You definitely see those cards working with it. I mean, this card costing 4 is nuts. This card for 5 is decent. Like, this card for 3 is insane. So just reducing its cost and playing it just seems very, very powerful. Wouldn't be surprised to see this in like loads of Paladin decks in the future. Priest, how much are we buffing in Priest? Let's have a look. Could see this card in the Cube Priest variant. So right now you have Renew on a minion. You have Apotheosis, you have Grave Rune, and you have Psych Split. The card itself is already good with Psych Split. You can run and generate Power Infusion, could just put it in your deck as well. So, looking like this card could be used in the Cube Priest too. I mean, it's just good if you target your minions twice this game, it's great, right? So, looks like a very strong card. Next up, Instructor Fireheart. Valkyrie discover spell that costs 1 or more. If you play it this turn, repeats effect. So that means if you play the spell that you discovered. 2 mana 3/3 discover a card. Meh. You have to chain loads of stuff, so it's going to be a late game card, but then discovering. It's a cool card, but it's unplayable in my opinion. I don't think this card's going to work. They said in playtesting this was a 0 cost. They just discovered any spell. For the most part, and then they had to change it because it was too good for 0 mana spells. But I think it just doesn't work anymore without the 0 mana spells. I understand why it hasn't been printed with Discover a spell that costs 0 or more, but I mean, it's potentially a lot of value. But what Shaman deck are you playing this in? Like, is this another Control Shaman support card? But Control Shaman, I just don't see it working, man. Hunter's just going to be too good. These mid-range decks apply too much pressure to these control decks. The reactive tools aren't strong enough. I mean, yeah, this card is decent, but that's about it. And that is the final card from the 25th to the 27th. I'll be doing another video shortly from the 28th to the 29th, so look forward to that, and I will see you in the next video. Have any comments or suggestions about these cards, any thoughts, put them in the comment section below. But bye for now. See you next time.